did you start homeschooling? I mean, what made you decide to do that? Was it something you always wanted to do?
Oh, that is a fun story that I don't usually get to tell. Yes, a lot of people know me as homeschooling, but they don't know why in the world I did it. So there was this lady, she lived by me, and her name was Angela Baker. And I got to know her as I was building the house that we live in, and just kind of getting to know her family. She's like, I'm doing this weird thing. I'm gonna homeschool my children. And I'm like, huh. That is kind of unusual, you know? And then while we're building the house, so I'm watching her going, I don't know what I think about that, but she's a great person, but I don't know what I think about that. So while we're building the house, I'm living in another community about 20 minutes down the road, and I'm living at my mom's house because she just moved somewhere, and I was living in her basement while we're building this house for like 4 months. And then her neighbor that moved in across the street from her, her name was Candace Winters. And Candace Winters was like, "Oh, we homeschool our children." I'm like, "I'm getting inundated here. Like, what is going?" Anyway, and so then I go to her and I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to ask you something really weird, but what about the social, you know?" And she says to me, so I was one of those people, you guys, I asked one about the social. And then she's like, well, actually, that's very interesting, Nicholeen, because we've thought a real lot about social and what really makes good social development for the children. And we're actually not sure if what is happening socially at the schools is proper social development for the children. If you would like to talk to us more about that, you can. And I was like, she just got my wheels turning. I was like, "Wait a minute, I just threw that 'what about the social?' but she just threw that on its head, and now I have to chew on it, and what am I gonna do?" So I started chewing on it, and then I had a neighbor once I moved into the house who said to me, I think I'm going to homeschool my children. And I read this book about Charlotte Mason and blah, blah. So, anyway, she shares the book with me. She doesn't end up homeschooling, but at that point, I'm going to my first homeschool conference. I'm totally in. And guess who the keynote speaker is? Oliver DeMille. Because the first keynote speaker apparently was a gal from California. She got struck by lightning. Crazy. I know. I don't want, I'm not saying she did anything wrong. I'm sure she was wonderful. It's just the freakiest thing. And so last minute, they're like, Oliver DeMille, will you be the keynote? And so he's the keynote. So the first speaker I ever hear at any conference ever is him. And he's talking about conveyor belt education and all this kind of stuff. And so then when I go to these classes about Charlotte Mason and by Reed Benson and all these different people that are like great homeschoolers, I'm comparing it all and I'm looking at all through this lens of this leadership education that I just got introduced in the keynote. I'm I was in. I'm like, I'm in. Anyway, and so I started homeschooling because people kept introducing it to me. One thing that happened at that first conference, though, was that my children, so my oldest two especially, were really early readers. And at that first conference, I went to a class by Lynn Hanson, and she does the Hanson reading method, which is incredible actually. And she did this class called I Can Teach a Child to Read in 40 Minutes, and So Can You. And I was like, I gotta see this. Because my son, Quinn, I felt like was so close to reading. And he was just a little guy, like 3 years old, right? But he was right on the cusp of it. And so I went to this. I watched her take a non-reading child, and he was a reading child by the end of the 40 minutes. Then she did another class and explained how she did it all. I went home, like I bought her charts and stuff. I went home and I did it in 40 minutes. And I was like, I can't send him to school. I just can't. And then later we decided to do therapeutic treatment care. So for troubled teens, we did foster care. And then I really saw what was happening at the school and I was like, that's it. Fully convicted on my choice here because I saw the social, I saw the drama, I saw the type of children that were there that you can't ever tell anyone else about. You know, not that there was anything wrong with the foster children. I had no problem with that, but you have to keep confidentiality in that field. And there's a lot of stuff that your children could be getting exposed to, and you have absolutely no idea. So I will say probably social was that, and my children being so academically inclined, and the fact that I could teach the first one to read in 40 minutes, I'm like, I think I could homeschool. All right, I'm doing it now.